I never imagined my life could change so drastically in one morning, let alone in my own home, and certainly not because of Evelyn, my father's spirited 50-year-old wife. I had just moved back in with my dad after graduating college, hoping to save up some money before starting a life of my own. Little did I know, this quiet Tuesday would mark the beginning of a story I never saw coming. Evelyn wasn't the kind of woman you'd expect as a stepmother. She was vibrant, witty, and carried an effortless elegance that turned heads wherever she went. Despite her marriage to my dad, Richard, there was an undeniable charm about her that made everyone feel at ease. When I moved back, I figured living under the same roof would be awkward at best, but Evelyn had a way of making me feel like part of the family from day one. That morning, I was preparing for a critical job interview, the opportunity of a lifetime. The bathroom mirror was fogged with steam as I rehearsed my answers, doing my best to calm the butterflies in my stomach. As I focused on my reflection, the sound of a soft knock broke my concentration. "Ethan, are you in there?" Evelyn's voice was warm yet hesitant. "Yeah, just getting ready," I replied, glancing toward the door. There was a pause before she said, "I'm sorry to bother you, but I really need something from the bathroom. Can I come in?" I hesitated for a moment, caught off guard. Sure. Come in," I said, trying to sound casual. The door creaked open, and Evelyn stepped inside. She was wearing a casual linen robe, her hair loosely pinned up, giving her a relaxed yet striking appearance. She moved with purpose, opening the cabinet as I turned back to the mirror, hoping to stay focused. "What are you looking for?" I asked, trying to keep the interaction brief. "My bracelet," she said, her voice tinged with frustration. "It's a lucky charm. I can't believe I misplaced it." I glanced over and saw her sorting through the drawers, the belt of her robe loosely tied. Her movements were hurried but graceful. I glanced over and saw her arranging drawers, the belt of her robe loosely tied. Her movements were hurried but graceful. An unexpected event suddenly occurred that froze the air. The belt of Evelyn's robe suddenly fell down. The two wings of the robe opened enough for me to see her seductively bare shoulders and collarbones. I quickly looked away. I felt my face heat up. Evelyn quickly turned around and tied her belt, looking flustered as well. I spotted something glinting near the sink. "Is this it?" I asked, holding up the bracelet. Her face lit up as she turned to me. "Oh, Ethan, you found it," she said, stepping closer to take it from my hand. Her smile was radiant, but as our fingers brushed, a strange tension filled the air. "Good luck charm for your meeting too?" she teased, breaking the moment. "Maybe I need it more than you do," I joked, trying to ease the awkwardness. Evelyn laughed softly, her gaze lingering for a moment longer than I expected. "You'll do great," she said, her voice sincere. "Just remember, you have everything it takes." As she left, the air seemed charged with something unspoken, something I couldn't quite place. It wasn't just her words of encouragement. It was the way she had looked at me, like she saw something no one else had. That morning, I walked into my interview with Evelyn's words echoing in my mind. But part of me couldn't shake the feeling that something between us had shifted, setting the stage for a future far more complicated than I could have ever predicted. I couldn't shake the image of that morning from my mind, even while sitting across from the interviewer. Questions about my skills and experience went in one ear and out the other. All I could hear was Evelyn's soft voice and see the flicker of something unspoken in her eyes. By the end of the interview, I couldn't even recall how I had responded. My mind was completely consumed by her presence. When I returned home, the atmosphere in the house felt stifling. Evelyn was in the kitchen, preparing dinner, but she wasn't the confident, poised woman I had seen earlier. Her movements were stiff, as if she were forcing herself to act normal in front of me. "How did the interview go?" she asked, her tone light, though her eyes avoided mine. "Fine," I replied curtly, though the tension in my voice was unmistakable. The rest of the evening passed in a strange, heavy silence. My dad wasn't home, which only made the house feel even more oppressive. As I was heading to my room, Evelyn's voice stopped me. "Ethan, wait." I turned around. She stood at the kitchen doorway, her hand gripping the frame, her eyes filled with conflict. "About this morning," she began, her voice faltering. I don't want you to misunderstand. Do you think I don't know? I cut her off, my voice low but steady. But that's not the point. The point is, what are we going to do about it? Evelyn stared at me, her eyes flickering with confusion and longing. A kind of inner turmoil I had never seen in her before. I couldn't predict what she would say, but one thing was clear. The peace we once had was gone for good. What happened is of course our secret. I am trying to keep calm while my heart is pounding. I avoid Evelyn as much as possible. I don't want to make things awkward, but every time I see her, I feel my cheeks heat up. She acts like nothing happened. I avoid her gaze. I decide to go to bed early, hoping that a good night's sleep will clear my head and clear the strange feelings that are coming to my mind. I know I shouldn't think about it because she is my stepmother. There is nothing I can do about it. But I can't get my thoughts of Evelyn out of my head. There is something about her that I can't explain. At the age of 50, Evelyn possesses an irresistibly charming and attractive beauty. Her radiant smile, sparkling eyes, and even white teeth make everyone stunned. Although she does not pursue an overly sexy physical beauty, Evelyn still maintains an admirable slim figure thanks to regular yoga practice. Her soft, seductive body curves combined with her confident, luxurious demeanor create a perfect whole. It can be said that Evelyn is like a work of art. The more you look at it, the more beautiful it becomes, the more infatuated you become. The next morning, I found a note on the kitchen table next to my breakfast. It simply said, "Ethan, we need to talk at 4 p.m. today." My heart jumped when I read those words. What did she want to say? Did she guess what I was thinking? Did she want to clear things up, or was there something else? I took a deep breath and crumpled the paper. Whatever happened, my life was going to be much more complicated. Thinking about Evelyn's message, a feeling of dread appeared in my heart. I couldn't let this go any further. Since my dad was away on a business trip, it was just me and Evelyn at home. I had a whole day to mentally prepare myself for what she was going to say. To temporarily forget my growing fear, I decided to go for a walk, hoping the fresh air would help me calm down. Sitting in the park, I thought back to the events of that morning. I couldn't remember Evelyn's reaction. She was confused, flustered, and how she hurriedly left the bathroom. But most of all, I remembered the way she calmly tied my belt and encouraged me. I also remembered how she had taken care of me these past few days. She took good care of me, just like all the other stepmothers in the world take care of their stepchildren. She washed and ironed my clothes, and the food she cooked every day were all my favorite dishes, which she must have asked for from my father. Every morning, she gently knocked on my door, then walked in and placed a cup of hot milk on the table next to my bed. In the evening, I often sat in front of the computer until late at night, and she gently asked, "Let me make you some late-night snacks." From then on, I had the habit of sleeping late and waking up early. Sleeping late because Evelyn would cook for me at night, waking up early because of a cup of hot milk every morning. When she entered my room, I could smell her scent, always the sweet scent of lilies. I don't know since when, my eyes often followed her. When our eyes accidentally met, I looked away in confusion. At that time, I saw a little confusion in her eyes. When the sun had set, I turned and walked back home. I saw Evelyn preparing my meal as usual in the kitchen. I walked into the house, took a deep breath. The smell of roast chicken filled the kitchen. The table was already set for 2 people. Evelyn looked calm as usual. She said, "I made your favorite dish. Hope you're hungry." "Thanks, Evelyn," I said. I sat down at the table, and from here the tension filled the room, unspoken words hanging between us. Our meal went by smoothly. The small talk lightened my mood a bit. After finishing the meal, we sat down at the table, and Evelyn poured 2 glasses of wine and sat down next to me. I could smell the scent of lilies wafting around as she sat next to me. I don't know how to say this, but I think what happened in the bathroom was more than an accident. I mean, it was an accident. She fell silent, searching for the right words to continue. I didn't expect these feelings. I think I'm too much for her. The silence continued. My heart was pounding at this point. "Evelyn, what did you just say?" I asked her, my voice barely audible. She took a deep breath and looked straight into my eyes. I was overwhelmed. I seemed to see something in her eyes. something I probably never thought I would. I knew this was wrong. I never meant to cross the line between stepmother and stepdaughter. But the events that happened made me realize that maybe she felt the same way I did. My heart beat faster, to the point that I felt like I could hear it in my chest. I turned my face away to avoid Evelyn's gaze as she stared at me. A jumble of emotions made me not know how to act. I wouldn't deny that I had been observing Evelyn for a while and I had a slight chemistry with her. But she was my stepmother, my father's wife. Was this wrong? While I was absorbed in my emotions and thoughts, Evelyn had already leaned close to my face. Until her warm breath hit my cheek, I was startled and looked to the side. What do you want? After my thoughtless question, Evelyn's lips did not hesitate to cover mine. The soft, sweet feeling enveloped my mind. Evelyn took the initiative to wrap her arms around my aunt, directly sitting on my lap and entangling our lips and tongues. I found myself leaning closer to Evelyn. At first it was gentle, cautious, as if testing. But then it was as if a dam had broken, all the tension and desire that had built up between us exploding. Evelyn's warm tongue relentlessly teased my last line of defense. Evelyn and I were caught up in something we couldn't control. But reality hit me. I quickly pulled away, panting, my mind reeling. Evelyn, we can't do this. What about my dad? My voice trembled. For a moment, Evelyn looked at me with a mixture of longing and regret. I don't know, she said. I just know I can't say I don't feel the same. But you're right, we need to think about this. I nodded, my heart heavy. I didn't say a word and shuffled back to my room. The glass of wine and Evelyn's actions made my body hotter than ever. The emotions that were pouring out were making me lose my composure. I needed to calm down. From this moment on, I knew that things would never be the same. We had crossed the line and there was no going back. It was not an easy night for me. I tossed and turned for a long time before I could calm down the emotions that were rolling around and wanting to break apart to fall asleep. In the quiet of the night, while I was sleeping, I felt a large mass of flesh pressing on me. I raised my hand to rub my eyes and opened them. Before I could wake up, I was immediately forced into a kiss. Evelyn covered my lips, her warm tongue licking the corner of my lips. I opened my eyes to look at her, frowning to avoid the kiss. But I suddenly realized that she was wearing a thin nightgown. The curve of her breasts was hidden behind the thin fabric. My heart was pounding. The wet kiss fell on the corner of my lips again. I knew this was wrong, but this time, reason could not overcome the emotions that were surging inside me. I turned passive into active so that Evelyn could lie down on the bed. Our lips never separated. She groped the muscles on my chest. Then she was absorbed in my strong arms. My lips slid from her sweet lips to her soft, plump ones. Evelyn gasped. Her hands threaded through my hair, then hugged my masculine back tightly. The desires that had just been extinguished during dinner flared up again. We could no longer think much. Our bodies were entwined together. The emotions and repressions that had been building up inside me seemed to explode. The fire of love seemed to have burned everything. We were immersed in the space of love. Evelyn moved her soft body. The waves of love rolled in and out. We forgot everything that had happened and came together as if we had been apart for too long. In the darkness of the room, the caresses and gropings only increased the desire and longing. The fingers intertwined, making my heart beat faster. The space was filled with hunger, excitement, and ecstasy. We cherished and caressed each other's bodies. Every inch of our bodies was wet and hot. The seductive scent of lilies further increased the excitement. Perhaps the glass of wine from last night had also taken effect. We warmed each other with the warmth radiating from our strong movements. We sank into each other, craving each other like never before. I firmly grasped Evelyn's slim waist. The movements became more passionate. A deep kiss caused the ecstasy to spread. One evening a few days after that wild night, my dad had a late meeting at work that I saw Evelyn sitting on the porch, her gaze fixed on the horizon where the sun was slowly sinking. A gentle breeze drifted by, carrying the faint, sweet scent of wildflowers. I walked over and sat down beside her. Neither of us spoke. The silence hung heavy between us as we watched the sky transform, its golden hues melting into shades of pink and fiery orange, like a masterpiece unfolding before our eyes. My mind was a storm of thoughts, each one crashing into the next, yet I couldn't find the words to begin. Finally, Evelyn broke the silence, her voice steady but weighted with unspoken emotions. "Ethan," she said, her eyes still locked on the distant skyline, "we need to talk about this. About everything that's happened." I turned to look at her, my heart pounding harder at the seriousness in her tone. "I've been thinking about it too," I admitted, my voice quiet but strained. "I can't stop thinking about it." She turned to face me then, her deep, piercing eyes meeting mine. The intensity of her gaze, framed by the fading light of dusk, was almost too much to bear. It was as if she could see straight through to the core of me. "I think," she began, her words deliberate and unwavering, "we have to make a decision, Ethan. Right now. Either we end this before it spirals into something we can't control, or we face it. Figure out what this is and what we really want." Her words hung in the air, heavy and undeniable, like a storm cloud on the verge of breaking. I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on us, the inescapable reality that whatever choice we made, there would be no going back. I swallowed hard, my thoughts racing uncontrollably. Deep down, I knew Evelyn was right. We couldn't keep pretending everything was fine when the truth was anything but. The weight of it pressed heavily on my chest. "What do you want, Evelyn?" I finally asked, my voice barely a whisper. She turned to me then, her eyes shimmering with a mix of sadness and longing. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. "I don't know," she admitted softly. "I want you, Ethan. But I don't want to hurt your father. I don't want to ruin everything." Her words cut through me, sharp and undeniable. "I don't want to hurt him either," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "But I can't ignore how I feel about you." Evelyn's gaze dropped to our hands, her fingers trembling slightly as she reached out to take mine. Her touch was warm, grounding me in a way nothing else could. "Maybe," she began hesitantly, "we need time. Time to figure out what we really feel. No pressure, no guilt, just honesty." Her words lingered between us, offering a fragile lifeline. I nodded, my chest tightening with the weight of this impossible situation. "Maybe you're right," I said, though the thought of stepping back, even briefly, felt like an unbearable ache. In the fading light, Evelyn's expression softened, and for a fleeting moment, it felt like we were suspended in a delicate balance, caught between the pull of our hearts and the weight of everything we couldn't control.